Melanie is lying in bed as the lights in her cell come on. She gets up and starts preparing for school. Two soldiers come in and she greets them happily, but the only thing they care about is securing her to the wheelchair. They wheel her out into the hallway and line her up with other children like her. Melanie and the others are placed in a classroom positioned by numbers. Melanie asks the teacher, Miss Justino, to tell them a story and proposes that she read them a myth so it can count as history. The teacher reluctantly agrees and reads the myth of Pandora's box. After class, Melanie is taken back to her cell, where two edgy soldiers refuse to say goodnight. Later, she's given dinner a plate full of worms. She falls asleep as she eats. The next day, Melanie gets a visit from Dr. Caldwell. The girl had solved a riddle the doctor gave her, so she's given a new one, a logic problem. Caldwell asks her to solve the problem of Schrodinger's cat. When Melanie can't answer, the doctor writes something down about her behavior and reads it back, calling her a subject. Finally, Caldwell asks Melanie for a number. She answers 13. Later, the soldiers pick her up and the other children for school again. As Melanie is wheeled past the numbered cells, she notices that cell 13 hasn't been opened. And when she reaches the classroom, that numbered seat is still empty. The teacher assigns a writing task, and the children worry about not knowing what story to tell. Melanie is the only one writing something long in her notebook. When Miss Justino asks for volunteers to read aloud, Melanie raises her hand quickly. She reads a story where she depicts herself as the savior and hero. The teacher is overwhelmed by the story and walks over to Melanie, wanting to touch her. Suddenly, Sergeant Parks bursts into the classroom, yelling that touching the children is forbidden. He decides to give Justino a reminder of why by walking up to one of the children, rolling up his sleeve, and holding out his arm. The child sniffs him and unhinges its jaw, trying to bite. The other children mimic the same behavior. After class, Sergeant Parks visits Melanie's cell as the others are about to remove her restraints. The girl antagonizes him, so he leaves her strapped to the chair. That night, Miss Justino visits Melanie. When she realizes Melanie was left restrained, she walks in and begins unstrapping her. But as Melanie gets a sniff of her scent, she starts turning like the others. Before fully transforming, Melanie urges Justino to get out. Later that night, Dr. Caldwell comes to visit again. They chat, and the doctor asks for another number. Melanie replies with 4, which is her own cell number. The next morning, Sergeant Parks enters and takes Melanie out of the cell and into an elevator. He wheels her through the facility while gunshots echo in the distance. Soldiers are seen running and shooting toward the fence of the military complex. Melanie is confused as Parks wheels her into another section of the compound, a lab where Dr. Caldwell is waiting. She asks Melanie again about Schrodinger's cat. When Melanie doesn't answer, Caldwell explains that the cat in the box is both alive and dead, just like Melanie. Another doctor injects Melanie with a sedative, knocking her out. They strap her to a slab, but she quickly wakes up. Justino storms in to stop the doctor from cutting into Melanie. Caldwell calms Justino down, then pepper sprays her, allowing the soldiers to arrest the teacher. She explains she isn't cutting up Melanie, she's using her to create a vaccine. Alarms suddenly blare. Caldwell orders the shutters closed, but a zombie breaks through the glass and attacks a doctor. Caldwell kills the zombie, cutting her own hand in the process. The other doctor turns but escapes just in time. Melanie is left alone with the zombie, but it doesn't touch her. She grabs a scalpel, cuts herself free, and walks outside into chaos. Zombies are everywhere, attacking soldiers. Melanie spots Justino being beaten by soldiers and rushes in. She attacks and bites them, killing both before passing out. Justino wakes to find Melanie beside her. She picks her up and escapes in a military vehicle. Zombies completely overrun the complex as the vehicle speeds off, followed by Parks. Sometime later, they stop in the middle of nowhere. Parks and Kieran realize Melanie is with them. Justino lets her out, despite Caldwell shouting that it's not her decision. Melanie runs a short distance from the vehicle and stops, seeing the outside world for the first time. The others try to radio for help but get nothing. As Caldwell insists on retrieving her test subject, the team checks the vehicle for supplies. No food, no water, just one mask used to retrieve zombies. Parks decides to head south to Beacon, assuming the base is lost. They strap Melanie into the gunner's seat, masked and secure, and travel to a river for water. When they arrive, zombies attack, leading to a shootout. One soldier is bitten. Parks waits to see if he turns. When he starts turning, Parks shoots him. Back at the vehicle, Parks sees Justino has brought Melanie inside, which makes him uneasy. The girl asks about the zombies. Caldwell explains they're people infected by a fungus spread through bites. When Parks tries to start the vehicle, it's dead. They'll have to go on foot through London. Parks and Kieran scout ahead. The only route is through a city full of zombies. They walk through, careful not to wake them. At a dead end, a zombie mother pushes a baby cart toward them. Caldwell approaches, finds a rat in the cart, and yelps, waking the mother and then the others. They narrowly escape, finally taking shelter in an abandoned hospital. Parks, Justino, and Kieran go on patrol while Caldwell and Melanie stay behind. Melanie asks where she came from. Caldwell explains she and the others were born in a maternity ward, children of infected mothers. The fungus got into their systems through the placenta, but they were different, able to think and feel. Later, Justino returns with new clothes for Melanie. That night, Parks tells Justino the girl loves her. Meanwhile, Karen guards Melanie, and they bond too. The next morning, more zombies gather outside. They're trapped, but Melanie has an idea. Since the zombies won't attack her, she goes out alone. She passes through them, hunts a cat, and eats it raw. Then, she finds a dog and uses it as bait to lead the zombies away from the hospital. The team continues their journey through the city. They discover a strange new form of the fungus grown out of dead bodies. Caldwell believes it's a new stage in the fungus life cycle. When enough infected gather, they become a pollinating force that could infect the whole world. They stumble upon a mobile lab. Inside, Kieran leaves for supplies while Melanie grows hungry and is allowed to hunt. She finds food, eats, and then hears a strange sound. She discovers a group of zombie children just like her communicating in grunts. She senses danger. One child sniffs something and leads the group outside. Back at the lab, Caldwell, now very ill with sepsis, insists she needs Melanie's brain and spine to make a vaccine. Justino is disgusted. Melanie returns and warns them the kids will hunt Kieran. Sure enough, Kieran is lured into a trap and attacked. Melanie leads Parks and Justino to the store, but it's too late. Kieran is half eaten. The children attack again, but Melanie fights the leader and kills him. The others submit to her. Back at the lab, Caldwell sedates Parks and Justino. She tries to cut into Melanie but collapses in pain. Melanie is already awake. They talk. Caldwell tries to convince her to give herself up to save humanity. Melanie asks if she's truly alive or just mimicking. Caldwell says she's alive. Melanie replies, "Then why should we die to save you?" Melanie runs. Caldwell follows but is surrounded by zombie children. Melanie reaches the massive fungus and sets it on fire, releasing the spores. Parks follows and gets infected. He begs her to shoot him before he turns. She does. Later, Justino wakes in the sealed lab protected from the spores. Melanie is outside, waiting. In the final moments, Melanie wakes Justino, who begins teaching the zombie children. They sit outside the lab listening through the glass. Melanie is their leader now and Miss Justino is their teacher.